my god! Nope, 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 nope. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, fuck. Ah! Shit! Shit! Get... I'm out of energy! I'm dead. Welcome to the swamp. Kinda? I mean, rainforest is pretty close, right? Hey, at least I have some cousins here to visit with. In the Amazon, everything wants to kill you, which makes Florida look like the Dia off-brand version of places you don't want to be lost in. Get ready to pick those ticks off your ass and kill some cute capybaras in the name of survival, and let's dive into the deep end of Green Hell. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. This was the first time I played this game, and for my playthrough, I spent over 50 hours, both in single player and in multiplayer, and have seen one of the two endings. Green Hell is a hardcore survival game that goes way beyond what other games do when it comes to the various dangers in the world. One moment you can be fine, then you take one step and everything crumbles around you. I can give you an example later. The objective of this game is to not only survive, but to escape and learn why you were there in the first place, as everything is not what it seems from the start of the game. Luckily, this game can be run on the middle-of-the-road computer, though having a better computer won't hurt at all, as there is a lot of foliage and various other things to render in that may or may not lag your computer. You do not get to create your own character in this game, and even in multiplayer, you will all play the same character, but with different colored t-shirts, so I'm not really going to rate this section. If you have never played this before, as you load in, it will start you off in a tutorial section that you can optionally skip. It's set to easy mode with barely much of any of the survival elements, as it teaches you fundamentals of the game itself and starts off a bit of the story. Once you complete the story mode, you are greeted with a cutscene that by the end will throw you into the deep end. Now you are on your own, and trust me, if you don't know what you're doing, you can have a very tough time of trying to get your feet off the ground in this game. As a tip, I recommend building a tent to have the option to save your game, as you will have to manually save your game at certain locations. I have another tip for saving the game in the survival section of this review though. Aside from that, you really need to get looking for food, bandages, weaponry, and always look down, or just listen and walk slowly. One wrong step on a scorpion, a stingray, or into the jaws of a jaguar or a poisonous plant, it will ruin your gameplay early on unless you know how to recover from it. I'll tell you now, going into the game blind, I had to repeat day 1 around 10 times, though that was mostly me trial and erroring on purpose to test out what things will or won't do, scouting the areas and so on. But all while I had a worm, no sanity, fever, infection, hunger, all of the fun things. So this is how I will rate the start. Being that this game is supposed to be a hardcore game, I'm going to give the start a 4 out of 5. It gives you that short grace period of the tutorial for your fundamentals, then you are on your own and it's tough as nails, and having to trial and error things to get a good foothold. The only reason I dropped it a point is because I felt it was a bit too unforgiving, having to sacrifice one stat to appease another, like when you have stamina but you don't have a bed, so you sleep but then you get a worm which will lower your sanity. You get the worm out by fishing for fish bones, but now I'm infected because I couldn't find monolaria. Of course, once you get a foothold, the game isn't that bad, and you can manage things as they come. It's just getting that foothold in the first place that is really hard as a new player going in blind. Either way, it's going to be a 4 out of 5. The exploration in this game is a must, from the various locations with new items to learn, story development, and finding resources. The resources in this game works like this. Every single natural item and even creature has spawning points, but they have a chance to spawn, so they won't always be in the same spot every time. It gives you an idea of where you can find items, but you won't always find them, as they may have not spawned in at that moment or when you walk near it. Other times you'll have creatures like snakes that have an area of spawning. So let's say it's near a log. The snake has several spots around that log that it may or may not spawn, but it will always be there. Jaguars, I noticed in the starting area, have around 3 spawning areas, but a 20% chance to even spawn, so it may or may not even be in those 3 spots. You know, bananas spawn from banana trees, but they have a chance that they will have them. Nut trees and coconut trees are all the same as well. It's a way of making the world feel dynamic without actually having a randomized local spawning area like Ark does, which is a neat compromise and won't be as predictable as the mobs or nodes in a game like Conan Exiles, where everything spawns in the exact same location every single time. The points of interest in this game all have new recipes and story plot points, most of which is not spelled out for you. You will need to figure out on your own, which I will talk about in the story section. Some points of interest have chances to spawn one-time only items, which are very good, like the machete or the canteen. There are a lot of locked off sections in the game map that require the acquisition of certain items that you find in the game in order to progress. I'm going to rate the exploration a 5 out of 5. I can work with the spawning compromise, and the story locations are all well worth braving the jungles to find new recipes to make survival much easier. Off the bat, I'm going to rate the survival a 5 out of 5, because this is the survival game. You have not only one food bar, but 3. 3 food bars, which are protein, carbs, and fats. So yes, you need to maintain your food groups in order to stay healthy. Water in this game is all dirty, so you need ways to collect rainwater or boil water. While you can drink dirty water, you have a chance to be okay, but you could also have a high chance of getting parasites, which lower your stats. Remember in my Stranded Deep video where I complained that they got rid of the bucket to collect rain? Well, in this game, they have that mechanic. You can collect coconut bowls, turtle shells, pots, and more to collect rainwater, which is your main way of gathering water for survival, besides boiling it. Getting meat is not that bad. Fruit is in abundance. Nuts were a bit harder at finding at first, but once you know what you're looking for, it's not that bad. Sometimes, if you manage to catch certain types of prey, the meat will give you both protein and fat. Fruits can also give you a combination of stats as well. There are many types of ailments in this game that all have different cures, from rash to fever, poison, lacerations, open wounds, leeches, worms, and many more that you will have to have access to a cure for at all times. You never know when something just hits you out of nowhere and everything will go downhill from there if you don't have the proper cure on hand. The example that I talked about earlier was when I was in a story location and wanted to head home. I was in good standing. I had full health, full water, I had good sanity. I saved my game and started to head home. Then a jaguar attacked me. I killed him, but I got lacerations. I didn't have the proper bandages to put, so I put normal ones on, which infected the wound. I soon got a fever, and my thirst and stamina started to drain rapidly. While trying to wash the blood off myself, I accidentally drank the water, giving me parasites. My stamina hit 0, and I passed out on the bare ground, which resulted in worms. Now my sanity started to drastically lower. I didn't even get halfway home before my sanity hit 0, and I died to the aberrations in my mind, not to mention my low health bar and other ailments that I had gotten. That is how quick things can turn all of a sudden in this game, and that happened in the span of around a few minutes. My tip for you is to have 2 saving points for one file. One for you know that for a fact you are golden, and it's a fallback in case something really bad happens. Then use the second save file as an autosave, just to checkmark your progress in case you die. But if that file ends up being a lost cause, you can switch back to the golden save where you know you are fine and could restart that progress again. A lot of things in this game require stamina to use, like lighting a goddamn campfire, which can be very annoying if you need food, but now you're about to drop dead from no energy. Though you do have skill levels like an RPG, so the more you do things, the less stamina, the more durability items will have, and so on. And unlike Valheim, you do get to keep your levels if you die. Well, up until your last save point, that is. So yeah, kiss your ass goodbye, and good luck in this game. 5 out of 5 survival. The building is going to be one of my least favorite things in this game. There are 3 tiers of building: plant, bamboo, and mud. When you build your home, it's very similar to Grounded, where you place a blueprint down for free, then you need to bring the items needed in order to piece it together. Only unlike Grounded, you don't get to put all of it together in one go, you have to piece it one by one. And I'm talking about the free building pieces, not the actual building it itself, though you still have to do that. Walls, yeah, you can attach them together all at once, but if you wanted to have a balcony or a ceiling, you first have to build the wall to attach the blueprint of the ceiling or balcony. Besides that, having to chop down a ton of trees only to have one or two of the required items drop at a time, then have to physically carry them back is very tedious when you play solo, though it is more bearable with friends. Luckily, the smaller items can be stacked in your backpack, but the long sticks and logs you can't. You can only carry around 5 or so at a time, and just screw off with the mud, because the mud you can only carry 1 at a time. So good luck if your mud box is far from your home. The natives also hate when you build homes and keep your fires lit, which means there is a base defense system. However, you do have the option to place traps around or kill the natives before they attack, as they will usually be seen spying on you before they strike. The crafting in this game is a bit odd, but also unique. You have a crafting menu, and you have a crafting table. The crafting menu is for placeable items, like mostly building pieces and stations, while the crafting table is for your inventory items, like your handheld and backpack items. For those, you pull up what looks like a rock slab as a table, and you place the items you want to combine in it. Not everything can be combined, but if it can, it will give you a small hint that you're able to use that item to craft something, though it doesn't tell you what else to use to combine it with. It's basically like, oh yeah, if you collect 3 more items and put it there, you can make something. What are those items? Who the fuck knows? Figure it out yourself. The handcrafting, you can build whatever you want as long as you have the items for it. The building pieces, you can only build what you have learned, though learning is not that hard in the first place. If you pick up an item like bamboo, you will learn all of the bamboo pieces, well, at least most of them. For stations, you will need to find the pre-built items in the world. You can also break down bigger items into smaller items by harvesting them. That is also how you get some items, only by harvesting other items. The farming is an absolute godsend when you need to maintain so many stats. Having the option to farm fruit, nuts, and even medicinal plants will be a plus to your survival. With farmed plants, you know they will always spawn the items you need instead of just being a chance to. They will spawn fruit every other day, and it's not that hard to care for them either. You really only have to wait for the growth of the plant. They won't die if you don't water them, but they won't grow unless you do. Luckily for you, the game rains a lot, unless you're unlucky and get a drought. You can get both rainy seasons and drought seasons. I just keep a couple of coconut bowls nearby with water to water the plants as needed if it's a drought season. The fertilizer is also optional, but doing it will give the plants a faster growing rate. There is also animal taming in this game. You can have a pet capybara or a pagari, but I was unable to figure out how it works, so I'm not going to comment on that aspect of the farming. Overall, this section is going to get a 4 out of 5. The building bumped it down a bit as I didn't like the amount of farming and walking back and forth with the logs and long sticks, let alone the mud. But the crafting is not that bad at all, and the farming is a blessing. So overall, this section is going to be good. PvE is not really that involved. You stab with the spear and do damage. However, I will note that headshots are always one-hit kills, even to larger animals like jaguars. By throwing your spear or using a bow, you can kill things in one hit, but getting that hit is the challenge, as creatures and humans will move and try to kill you back. Hunting cappies and pegari, of course they are moving as well, by grazing or running from you, so you need to stealth and wait for the right moment to strike. You can also make armor in this game of various qualities that will help against lacerations and abrasions while you're being attacked. There is durability, and from what I saw, there's no real way to repair them, so you will have to recraft it when it breaks, though the items themselves are not that hard to acquire. Natives in this game are easy to avoid as they are very loud talkers and sing often. You will always hear or see them before they see or hear you. Fighting 1 or 2 of them at a time is not that bad, however it gets much harder when there are multiple around. Unless you are really good with headshots, it's almost impossible to solo a whole group of them. The PvE I'm going to give a 3.5 out of 5. It is standard at best, but I gave it a bump up for the headshots. This game is not PvP orientated, and there is no friendly fire unless the server admin changes it in the server files. When another player dies at all, everyone loses 20% of their sanity, though you can also pick up items as they drop, at least half of them, as some of them will be lost forever. This section is not going to be rated. As an overall story delivery, I'm going to rate it a 3.5 out of 5. It It's both average, but also not as informative. The various points of interest all have pieces of parts of the story. You can find certain cutscenes as well, which will unlock a bulk of the story. The cutscenes give a lot of information, but the locales themselves don't give as much information unless you are able to accurately figure out how it fits into the overall story. I had to use the wiki to find out what happened in each of the locales because it's not as explained to you as the main story is, especially when it comes to timeline. That is why I'm rating it a 3.5 out of 5. It's an average storytelling for a survival game, but it does better in some aspects than others. For the first time, I'm going to have a non-spoiler and a spoiler section. You will know when I'm going to do the spoiler section, as I will have a massive spoiler tag at the bottom for you to mute. I will also have a timestamp available for you to skip if you wish. For now, let's do the non-spoiler section. The story itself, in my personal opinion, I did not care for. At first, I was interested as the story presented itself one way, which seemed interesting, but as it expanded, it grew into something else altogether, and while some people may find it interesting, I find it a bit cliche and not in my taste for stories. While, again, this is my personal opinion, I am going to rate it a 2 out of 5. It's not overly terrible, I just didn't quite like the change of pace, especially at the halfway mark with the plot twist, and I just don't care for it much. So here's going to be the spoiler section. The story at first starts off as you are adventuring into the jungles with your wife. She goes off to meet the natives and something happens. You go to find her but are chased by aggressive natives. At the start of this game, through clues you are given, you know that there are two factions of natives, the friendly ones and the skull warriors who hate all outsiders. I thought this was going to be interesting to see the conflict of the friendly ones versus the ones who hate the modern world and want to be left alone even by force. Unfortunately, that is only a part of the story. In one of the early cutscenes, you unlock the ability to talk to your wife through the walkie-talkie. That was fine at first. It was interesting to have someone to talk to, find out clues, talk story, and even get hints and tips for surviving. There was even some funny banter at times. But once you get to the airport, it all started to get really weird. The person on the radio gave me red flags all over. Then suddenly the wife started to act strange. I was like, what the fuck? But as I unlocked the next cutscene and found out that this game is basically a post-apocalyptic game with a fucking virus that kills everyone, and it's your fault for rushing some cure because of your cancer-ridden wife, I just felt it was very cliche, and I don't care for the world-ending virus stories. I never have, even before the 2020 COVID issues. I almost immediately lost interest in this game because of that. But again, this is my own personal opinion. You might like the sudden plot twist, I don't. I even gave the trope of the hero having amnesia a pass because of the way he got the amnesia. So normally a game or a movie where this is presented, it's like, oh, you hit your head, now you have to relearn everything. Here it's a bit different. He only forgets the events that caused him trauma recently because it's an emotionally trauma-inducing amnesia, which is not only different for games that do this, but also very real. My grandmother had this exact same thing happen when her sister died. She was at the funeral and she was so upset, she suddenly was terrified and looked all around, not knowing where she was and not knowing how she got there. It was because her brain was forcibly trying to remove all of the bad memories in the recent days. So I'm gonna give this a pass because it is a very real thing that can happen and not always used in games that do this. But the rest of the story, I'm not giving a pass. By the way, since this is the spoiler section, the wife is already dead. You talk to her imagined voice of her through your walkie-talkie in your insanity. After you beat the game, there are a few things you can do if you wish. There is another game mode called Spirits of Amazonia, which is a prequel to the main story. It is on the same map, but the locales will be different, and there will also be friendly natives to quest with. It is recommended to play the main story before you do this one though, so you are not spoiled. Though it is only minor spoilers in my opinion. You also have other forms of difficulty like hardcore mode if you wish. Their story mode also has 2 endings, so if you got one but wanted to see the other one, you can do so if you wish. I'm going to give the endgame a 3.5 out of 5. While it is a bit bare bones, the DLC does give it a bump, though only by half a point because you do have to start your survival all over again and don't get to carry on with your items. There is no modding for this game, at least on the Steam Workshop, and there are none that I'm aware of on third-party sites. This game still gets some updates here and there, with updates to the DLC and some items or new mechanics for the main game, like how you can now tame the capybaras. The population is a bit low. While you can play with others on open servers, it is limited to the amount of players, and there was not as many as available to begin with to play on. I'm going to give this section a 3 out of 5. You still have updates and the chance to play with other players, though it's not as active as other games. Though it is primarily a single player game, so it won't hinder the game at all, and the updates, while they do happen, is not as often. Surprisingly enough, there were little bugs that I found. Nothing came to mind while writing this review, which means I don't remember them, nor can I find any in my recorded footage. That must mean that there's not many worth talking about, which is a good thing. Though I did ask one of my friends if they found any while they played, and they did report that they had issues with the game registering that they were building at times, but it wasn't bothering him as it fixed itself quickly afterward. There were lag spikes when players were joining the world on multiplayer, and there are occasional frame drops depending on the locale, as some areas have thicker brush than others. I also sometimes hit low frame rates during combat, but it wasn't as bad as Grounded, where I was able to still fight and kill enemies. I'm going to give this section a 4.5 out of 5. It's not perfect, but it's not bad at all, and ran fairly well, though, as always, your experience may differ. I need to start making weapons and armor. What?
Centipede.
Oh my god, that was an actual centipede?
Yeah.
I have never seen that, ever.
I see one every time I pick something up.
I have never seen one in my whole game in my whole playtime.
Yeah, that's how I died to Venom one day. I was walking with palm leaves and it just started growing and growing. I decided to just let it keep going.
You know how much I've built and have done in my main server and I've never seen a centipede? My overall score is going to be a 3.8 out of 5. It is a very good game overall, and I had a lot of fun with it. Though I did have some issues with the story, the gameplay was still fun and very hard at the start. But once you get going, it becomes second nature and becomes much easier to play. I plan to play the DLC very soon, which contains the prequel story. I also plan to play this on stream with my friends, so you can watch that on my Twitch channel if you like. The link is in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this review. Sorry it took a little longer than normal, but I was having a lot of fun playing this, as well as I was playing other games as well, which you will see some reviews on coming very soon. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.